This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right, we have talked about our various feelings about VR, and in particular, Facebook/Meta's implementation of VR over the years. Avram has long said that the HTC Vive is more his favorite device than, say, the Meta Quest, which I agree with. I have used many Meta Quests, and I don't quite enjoy them as much. I don't know if he has updated that recommendation since then.
I mean, I think it's good that you have, I think, as Carmack said, have something that works really well, detached from a computer.
Mm-hmm.
It so happens that my son has a Quest 2, and so that's the only VR headset I have in the house, and it's much easier to use than an HTC Vive. You don't have to set up a station or anything like that. So, it's
They've
convenient.
got their ups and downs.
It works. It's convenient and it works. I don't get to use it very much. He uses it a lot, but so I actually think, if I were to recommend VR for somebody today, the one that makes the most sense is still the Quest 2. It's relatively affordable. It works independent of a PC or with a PC, or wirelessly. So it gives you lots of options, and it seems to be the best supported in terms of software. So, I'd like to see somebody make something better, or Meta make something better, but it's been out for what, like 2-3 years now. It's not exactly a brand new product.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
I think we could certainly use something new, but it's, for what's out there, it's probably the best mainstream VR solution.
Yeah, for sure. We've got one possibly in a box right in front of me, or out in mission control. I have never been a huge VR person. I'm much more an AR person. There's a HoloLens just outside of my reach to my left. But obviously VR has a lot of interesting possibilities. It has had its share of issues in adoption, but overall, VR has certainly done better in the last couple of years, partially because of the Quest 2 and its independent nature. But it has still struggled. Before the company changed its name, everybody kind of wondered, what is Facebook's plan with VR now that they've purchased, they purchased Oculus in 2014, and it kind of bounced around a little bit. It didn't seem like they quite had a grip on what their plans were. Then they rebranded everything. Everything became Meta. Facebook became Meta. Oculus became Meta. Everything was Meta, and the belief was maybe they found their focus. Well, this week, the now former chief technology officer for Oculus/Meta Quest has left, John Carmack. And on his way out, he basically said that he didn't have it in him to continue trying to fight to put a direction on top of Facebook/Meta's kind of chaos. Now, their corporate chaos is something that is well known inside the engineering world. Many senior engineers, software engineers, have been offered jobs at Facebook or Meta, depending on the time period, including people here in this circle. They're usually turned down because we all know that no part of the company has a direction. They're an engineering-led company, which has its benefits, but it does mean that they don't necessarily have a business plan or a business need or even a customer need for things that they create, and it sends them off in these weird places. Workplace, for example, which I don't think even exists anymore. You know, they go off in these weird directions because they think it's cool, and then nobody cares. And then they have things that they create that people do want. Oculus for Business, for example, that they completely abandon. I worked on a project on Oculus for Business in the last 6 months, and completely abandoned. The best features that the company had put on top of the VR, and they had languished. They no longer support the modern hardware. And so Carmack, who, by the way, co-founder of id Software, lead developer on kind of everything that mattered in the 90s. Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, Quake, tons of high-profile 90s games. Carmack was like, I'm out. I'm done with VR. In fact, I'm going to go work on AI. It's a pretty big move, as far as I'm concerned. First of all, saying these things publicly. We have a link to his Facebook post, but also saying, I'm done. I'm out. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, as someone who's worked in the corporate world, obviously not at Meta and not in programming and not in VR, so take it for what it is worth. But I have worked at a couple of different jobs and fairly large corporations, or large compared to some, and there's always some level of corporate BS at every job, and there are always some people who have less tolerance for the BS.
Sure.
There are some people who love the BS and are part of the BS. There are some people who internalize the BS and they're like, wow, man, I love whatever this BS is. And then there are some people who
I saw faces in my head of those people from my past. I'm sorry, continue.
I mean, that's one great way to succeed in a lot of corporations. Like, listen, whatever today's mantra is, I'm with it, whether I'll internalize it no matter what. But then there's always people, especially the most creative people, who are like, hey, I don't have the patience. I don't have patience for corporate politics. I don't have patience for this stuff. I don't have patience for things that I disagree with. I'm just going to take my ball and go home. Now, to be fair, this guy's been doing this a while. He didn't just start. But, in my experience, the more cooks you have, the more politics you have, the more BS you have, the less gets done.
Yeah.
And you look at smaller and smaller companies, and they're able to do a lot more because they don't have so many layers of decision making to go through to make a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
for him though, in this case, he was literally at the top, one step from the top of the pyramid, and he still couldn't get things done.
Right. So that is a problem, because what they should do, what it says is that this is a very top-down organization, that even he can't do what he wants. We see this in all.
And in some cases, part of Meta's problem is this whole engineering-led culture, where a lot of what happens is bottom-up driven. Things are controlled by too many of the engineering employees, not the engineering managers, not the senior engineers, just the day-to-day. Hey, today I want to work on this. Is there a need for it? Don't worry about that. And that's where a lot of the chaos at that company has always come from. Fortunately, they did not implement that same chaos engine on top of Instagram, which is the reason why Instagram continues to operate fairly smoothly. And, release things that make sense. Occasionally they put out a UI update that annoys everybody, but they pulled that one back. But on the Facebook side, there's features that come and go, sometimes day to day, because somebody wanted to do a thing.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
I mean, I think that like obviously it's a big indictment of their corporate culture there that they can't get more done. Um, Obviously, you know, I mean, the best I mean, I guess part of the situation there too is that maybe they're not letting that division run as independently as they should, or maybe it is like you said, just people from the bottom up having too much say. Uh, I mean, the guy was there a long time. He couldn't crack the culture. I guess see this as a warning uh, because Carmack is someone who should be listened to. Like
Yes.
he knows what he's doing. So, um, and and even if he didn't know what he was doing in terms of VR, like he's supposed to be the manager there, and so we don't really know what his vision was. Um, but
True.
we see this all the time. I mean, think about all the directors who have had their vision messed with by movie executives. You thought that this could have been a great movie if only such and such person didn't mess with it,
Yeah.
or so we hear, right?
Right.
So
The Snyder
it,
stuff is a good example of that.
except then we learned,
Well, that's a whole different
and
issue.
it wasn't. But yes, there's always somebody to muck with it, and there's probably a lot of great stuff that was kind of left on the cutting room floor or whatever. So I mean, I'd love to know what he thinks they should be building and what they're actually building. I mean, I assume they're working on a next generation product. I mean, they can't live with this forever, right? I mean,
One would hope.
I mean, I, I
There's the
mean,
Oculus Pro, right? Um,
but that's not a replacement for this.
no, right.
It's too
But
expensive, and
it
yeah,
does indicate that the division is doing something. We just don't
yeah,
know. And again, that could be one of those things, right? Where they were working on this other thing because somebody wanted to, and not necessarily because there was a business need for it, which brings us back to the cultural issue over inside of Facebook/Meta.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to see, I'd like to see them do something to unite AR and VR in a single device.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to really give you like a really good real mixed reality
Yeah.
experience. um we still haven't seen a great like AR consumer device. We've seen AR, some really expensive AR for business things like HoloLens, but we haven't seen like a yeah, we haven't seen like a really great example of, I mean, like AR gaming is not the best experience, but AR can be good for other things.
Sure.
So like
Although
if you
I'll tell
could
you,
mix,
there there was an unofficial port of Pokemon Go for the HoloLens. It no longer works. Um, Niantic was working on it at one point, and it leaked out. So it was, kind of an unofficial port, or at least an unofficial release. I got to use it. That was wild.
that's cool. I mean, most AR things that we've used are like, okay, this is a cute thing on the phone
Yeah,
or whatever, like
yeah,
Pokemon Go.
sure.
But I remember, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show, but there was that thing that Lenovo came out with a few years ago where you do a lightsaber duel with Kylo Ren or a
Yep.
stormtrooper or something, and that was AR.
Uh huh.
And
That
like
was that on the Windows MR platform?
it was its own thing, I think.
Was it?
I
Okay.
don't think you could use it. it was a proprietary. You could only do that with it, I think.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and it had a base station that you would put down. Then you'd have like a little
Yep.
controller that looked like a lightsaber that you could use. And then if you had a second, and they were like 250 bucks each. And then if you bought a second one, then you and a friend could lightsaber duel. But then if you didn't, then you just be lightsaber dueling like, you know, Kylo, a very translucent like Kylo Ren. And the thing is, it wasn't even smart enough to maintain the distance. So like to change the distance. So no matter, you could walk across the room and Kylo Ren would still be 2 feet in front of you, whether you went forward or back. It
I
was always
remember this.
wherever like it. And like if you think about it, like it was cute. It's cute for like a minute that like you're fighting uh monsters or enemies or whatever in your living room, and then after a while you're like, this isn't really what I want from my gaming experience. Like I want
Yeah.
to be in a more immersive world than in my living room or whatever. Like I I want to be transported to another world. I don't want, when I'm gaming, I don't want it to be here in my desk in my living room. Like, Pokemon Go is cute like that, whatever, because you're collecting things, but I don't think a lot of people want to play a game where it's just a translucent thing on top of your messy desk and the
Yeah.
living room, right?
The
It's
best,
it's not.
the
Yeah.
absolute best AR game I have played is called Fragments. Um, it is. I think we may have even. It may not have been on this show. It might have been on something else. But I've talked about it on air, and Lante and I keep talking about wanting to do a stream of it because we don't think that anybody ever has. Um, we've played it for hours at this point, and we haven't finished our first time through the story. And it's
Yeah. So
so good. There's there's this woman that sits on my TV stand in front of the TV and talks to us because there was a flat surface there, and it has figured out that on my stairs there's like a nice big flat wall, and so it puts, when a control panel is needed, it puts it there. It's, I mean, it's solid, but it's the only one that I feel like has that kind of depth that I have personally interacted with, which is a shame, right? Because if you look at, even for the HoloLens, which there's more of those out there than Magic Leaps, because there was that leak that suggested they may have sold about 12 of the first generation ones. So when you look at like the games that are the highest rated, you've got Fragment and then Robo Raid, the one that Microsoft showed off at their presentation when they announced the HoloLens like 180 years ago. It's that one's number 2, and it's basically not changed at all, and it's the same game over and over and over and over again, and that's the number 2. Not great. It would be, but that's because there's not many of them out there. Even the HoloLenses, there's not a lot in consumer hands. They're mostly in business hands because they were $3,500 a piece.
yeah.
So yeah, it would be great to see some AR mixed stuff. The Apple headset is supposed to be a proper MR. It's supposed to be AR VR mix. We'll see if that ever comes to market. It's supposed to hit in 2023, but it was also supposed to hit in 2020, I think. So, we'll see. I think what Carmack is saying, and I think I agree with him, is there needs to be more legitimate players in this space. Windows MR was not it. There need to be more players in this space. It can't be essentially just HTC and Oculus. There's got to be more serious players, because that's when a company has to dump the chaos or get left behind. So it'll either, it's a put up or shut up kind of a situation if there's more players in the space that are serious contenders. In my experience, Magic Leap's not it. The HoloLens, as much as I love it, not it. all the Windows MR stuff, not it. So, somebody has to come along and put up a challenge here, and I don't know. Hopefully, we'll see it at some point. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.